Today we're going to talk about how we can help you, your organization go paperless and increase efficiencies and able to streamline your business process using a full document management system. So we live in a world today where we have instant access to information from anywhere at any time. Think about the minute that you get off a plane. You can pull out your phone, find out the directions to your hotel or to a restaurant, or looking up a recipe, how to make something. So why can't we do the same for our business? To be able to access our information from anywhere. Most of us today telecommute. We have multiple offices throughout the world. And the idea is to centralize the storage of your information in one place and yet be able to access it from anywhere at any time. So this is where DocLink come in play. This DocLink can be used as a document management system, a record management system, or a full content management system. What is document management? Some of you need a solution where you're running out of storage space. You're tired of paying for offsite storage, or you're moving to another facility and you don't want to carry all those file cabinets with you. So you just want a system where you can store and search for your information, to be able to secure your documents and information, to able to be prepared for disaster preparedness. Because if today, God forbid, that something happens to your documents, if there's a fire or a flood, well, those documents are gone. Well, here, by using a document management system, your information is stored in a server, backed up is being done, so if anything happens to your information, we can restore all of that. And also, of course, security to your documents. But then some of us need to have to able to manage the life cycle of your documents. In other words, to able to comply with the retention schedule. There are many documents where by law you are required to keep them for X number of years. And then after that, you need to get rid of those documents. Or able to track when a contract expires, when it needs to be renewed. So tracking the life cycle of your document, that's record management, and we can do that as well. But then there are these live working documents. Take an example, your AP invoices. They're coming in, it needs to be routed around for review and approval and action to take upon before you can process the payment. So that's content management, and DocLink is that as well, which we're going to introduce today. Okay? So before you're able to access your information, it needs to be captured. You need to bring it into the system somehow, some way. There are numerous methods. If you have it in hard copy, unfortunately, you're going to have to scan them in. But then a lot of your documents are being emailed to you. You have it electronically. So why print it out? Okay, we're just able to drag and drop and store those files electronically. There's also OCR option available to be able to batch store your documents into the system, and the OCR will be able to read the information on your documents and bring it in to help minimize manual data entry. There's also the barcode option. Example, you process a sales order. You create a sales order in Sage. You are now creating pick ticket or delivery ticket. Well, you can add barcodes to those documents. So now when those delivery tickets are being signed and acknowledged that's been received, we can batch store them in the system. The system can read the barcode on the document to automatically store those documents into the system and to minimize manual data entry. Those are just a few options. But at the end of the day is you need to capture those information and store it into the system and having it searchable. Being that we are fully integrated with Sage, the benefit for you is that you will now have two places where you can find your information. You will be able to search and have access to the documents within Sage. But bear in mind that you have a lot of staff that don't have access to Sage. So with those staff, they will be able to search through DocLink. So now you have two places where you can find your information. And to be able to find and have access to those information instantly, literally seconds, not hours, not days. So Like I said, there are documents that are live working documents that need to be routed around for approval. So we also have a workflow solution that give you the ability where it electronically route your documents around for review and approval. It gives you visibility to your documents from anywhere around the world. It able to give you tracking capability, so you know exactly where the document's at, who's working on it, how long it's going to take before it's completed, and also full audit trail. Then we also have the ability for automated delivery of documents that's being generated in-house. And additionally, we also have tools to help you go paperless in forms that you generate in-house. In other words, we have all the tools to help you to go as paperless as you want. But first, before we go dive into some of those tools, let's talk about the integration with Sage. Being that we are an alliance partner with Sage, our system is fully integrated, so data is being passed back and forth between the two applications in real time. Why is that beneficial? Is to help minimize the manual data entry. Because a lot of the data you have already available in Sage, let's reuse that data, okay? And then also, it's able to access the documents in both Sage and in DocLink. The benefit for you being that we're fully integrated is you can also upgrade your Sage ERP software at any time, or DocLink at any time, and rest assured that the compatibility, the integration is still intact. There are a lot of products out there, document management system out there that will tell you, oh yes, we can integrate with your Sage accounting system, but they neglect to tell you that it's still a process called screen scraping. In other words, integration at the surface. So when you upgrade your Sage ERP or the document management system, the integration is broken. So you as the customer will have to pay additional fee to redo that integration. And that's why sometimes you see your peers out there wondering, why are you running on such an old legacy version? It's because they don't have the budget to redo the integration if they upgrade. So something to consider. Let's talk about high value add solution. Do you realize that it takes your company $20 for the staff to file a document? Okay, it's cost that we don't see every day, but there's a research done by PricewaterhouseCoopers that it actually costs $20 to file a document, and then to find that document it costs $120 each time to look for a document. The document may be storing off-site, it may be to another building, it may be in another floor, and that is if you can find it. So if you can't find it and you need to recreate that document, it is costing you $220, okay, to recreate that document. Just something to point out, okay, because again, cost we don't see or realize every day. We actually have a customer that used to store their documents off-site. Some of you are using, for example, Iron Mountain to store your files, to manage your files, to search for your files. This customer here paid $85,000 each year for Offsite Storage. That's more than the cost of the document management system itself. That's the cost you can eliminate for life. What about, many of the companies out there, we're expanding, we're growing every day. The economy is good. So when you're expanding and instead of hiring new staff, by implementing a document management system, it's going to help your staff be more efficient. Okay? So being that they're more efficient, they're going to be able to take on more workload. Therefore, you don't have to hire more accounting staff, for example, just because you're expanding and growing, your business is growing. Let's take a look at the system. in, example use in different business units within your organization. Okay. Now keep in mind, DocLink is an enterprise content management system. Many of our customers will start the system in the AP invoicing side of the house. That is the most trouble spot in most organizations. But then they will expand the same system to the AR, to sales order processing, to HR department. HR is the second most paper-intensive department in most organizations. Same system can be used for engineering, for sales department, marketing, legal department, so on. Any of your department that create or store documents and information can use the same system. So those of you who are at the AP staff sitting in the presentation today, I think you can kind of, relate to some of these issues. Okay, to be, biggest complaint I hear is we can't get the invoice approved on time because Joe, the controller, is always traveling, and Joe will not approve off on an invoice until he actually sees it. Okay, therefore, it causes delay, or having to pay a penalty fee. Or what about able to access the document? Someone's asking, can I see a copy of the payment, or can I see a copy of the invoice? Having to go and search for those information. Or what about when the invoice comes in and you can't process it because you're still waiting for the purchase order or the delivery or packing slip so you can do your matching and verifying before you actually pay the invoice. And of course the pain of doing data entry. Well, we're going to help with all of that. So the idea is, when the invoice comes in to you, now if it comes in by hard copy, by the mail, the snail mail, you are going to have to scan them in. So I encourage you to tell your vendors to email the invoices to you, because all invoices are generated from some kind of ERP software. So if they email it to you, then all you have to do is just import and store those documents in. There's no need to scan, no need to open up envelope and scan. So you can just import, drag and drop, and store them into the document management system. But here Lisa, who's the AP person, about to go on vacation for 2 weeks, and she's stressing out because she's worried that by the time she comes back from her vacation, that all these invoices are sitting in her email, waiting to be processed, and so there might be a chance of delay. Well, we can resolve that. We have the ability to monitor your email server. So when anytime it's being emailed to that specific email address, we can automatically grab the invoice from your email and store it into the document management system. And from there, workflow can take over and automatically route it to the appropriate staff for action. So it doesn't have to wait for you to come back. So once the invoice is stored in the system, workflow takes over. Workflow can be initiated in 2 ways. One way is the automated way. As long as you can flowchart out your process, in other words, identify the task. Who's supposed to perform the task? How long do you want to allow them to perform the task? 24 hours? 48 hours? If you have any business rules like a dollar amount business rule. Well, if it's above $10,000, it has to go to Joe. If it's above $20,000, it has to go to Joe and Lisa. Okay? So those are what we call dollar amount business rule. Or what about rules like maybe you have 2 AP staff, and AP person 1 is in charge of working on all invoices from a vendor starting with the letter A through M. AP 2 is in charge for all invoices starting with the letter N through Z. Or maybe you have 5 companies, and AP 1 is in charge for all invoices for company A, B, and C, and so on. Those are examples of business rules. So we just need to identify them, and then we will create a workflow template. So the minute the invoice comes into the system, based on the dollar amount of the invoice, based on the vendor name, based on the company, whatever the rule is, workflow will automatically route that invoice to the appropriate person for action. So you don't have to touch it. Okay? But unfortunately, Many of us are either that we're small or we don't have set in stone rules. So workflow can be initiated manually as well. So here's an example. Invoice comes in. The AP person's looking at the invoice. And for this invoice, the AP person's deciding, hey, I need to send it to the CFO for approval. So you selectively decide who you want to route it to and when. So now your question is, well, how does the CFO know there's an invoice waiting for their approval? They're traveling. They're at a conference. Well, one way is we can notify is by email notification. Okay? So you're not tied to the office. You don't have to have software loaded to your PC. You don't have to be connected to the network. All you need is access to your email. Because directly to your email, we will actually attach the invoice or the documents to that email. So the CFO just need to open up the attachment, look at it, and directly from the email, they can click approve or reject directly from the email. When they click approve or reject, it's going to log in our audit log of when he or she approved it or denied it. And then the system workflow will route it to the next person. Now this is great. However, you're sitting there thinking, wow, we get 1,000 invoices a month and we're not going to want to send 1,000 emails to the CFO. So the other option is we have alert that we can send off as well, where it can be sent out on time basis, hourly or at the end of the day by email, and then we can add a link to that email where the CFO can just click on that link whenever he's ready, and then the system will bring him to his workflow inbox with a listing of all the documents waiting for his or her action. So that's a little bit about workflow. Now, once you own workflow, you can use the workflow for the routing and approval of any types of documents. So this scenario, we use it for AP invoices, but you can use the workflow for the routing and processing of your sales orders, for the invoicing of your for AR invoices, for approval of contracts, for hiring on new staff, for vacation approval or pay raise requests, and so on. Any type of documents that needs to be routed around for approval and action to take upon. Okay, so here is an accounting feature that is been created for Sage ERP. So now typical process, invoice comes in, AP staff typically would send out the invoice to the approving managers. The approving manager will look at it, and sometimes they'll write down the account code or GL code on the invoice. And then eventually it gets back to AP. AP will try to read their handwriting and then input that same data into Sage. Well, that's a waste of staff time right there. But the reason why you need to do that is because the approving managers don't have access to Sage. Okay? So here's the idea. Invoice comes in. Workflow will notify the approving manager. The approving manager who do not have access to Sage could just log into DocLink, look at the invoice, okay? But instead of handwriting the GL code on the invoice, look at to the right here. Because we are connected directly to Sage, to the GL master file in real time, the approving manager can just select the GL code from the drop-down list. And yes, based on their security permission, we can secure it down so they will have access to only certain GL code instead of all the code. And yes, if there are certain vendors that you do all the time using the same GL code, we can set that up as a default, just like the way you have it in Sage. So all they have to do is just look at it, verify it, make sure it's correct. And yes, because we are connected with Sage, you can type in a vendor name. It will go to Sage. It's going to pull over all the vendor information, their payment term, their mailing address, shipping address, and so on. And for those of you who happen to, that you intercompanies, we can work with the intercompanies as well. Multi-currency, some of you are international, so yes, binary stream, we are all compatible with that. Okay? But once you're done, the system, what happened is, it's going to push all that coding information from DocLink over to Sage. So you don't have to do that same data entry. Okay, we're going to push all that coding information from DocLink over to Sage. And yes, of course, you can view all those documents within Sage. So this is an example of giving you the ability to perform what we call coding in DocLink. And you do not need to have access to Sage to do this. You will run into some approving manager telling you, hey, I don't like selecting any code. I just like writing it on the invoice like I normally do. That's fine, but let's do it the paperless way. So yes, we include annotation tools with the system. So they can just type in a sticky note. We have a note box area here. You can draw a line. You can block off certain confidential information. And I already mentioned that we have an audit log that tracks the approval, but some of you, want to see the actual approval on the invoice, on the document. So yes, we have approval stamp, and you can just place a stamp, and based on your login and date and time, it will place a permanent stamp on that document for you. So now when the invoice gets routed to the AP department, the AP staff can look at the invoice in Sage, and within Sage, you do your coding like you normally do. But once you're done, the system is going to pass all that coding information from Sage over to DocLink, tying this information to the invoice, purchase order, packing slip, and all the associated documents. Your question is, why is it so important that all this coding information, GL code and all that, is available in DocLink? We already have it in Sage. It's because we want to give you the flexibility and able to search for those information in two places. So that way later on, when a department manager wants to able to say, hey, give me a report of all the, anytime we purchase an item with GL code 550-300. Or I want to see how many times we order PC this year for my department. They don't have to go to AP. They can just pull up those report themselves based on the vendor name, the GL code, all the data that we pull over from Sage. Okay? So, oops, oh my goodness. I'm sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. Sorry there. So we can, let me just go back here. So now, once the invoice has been approved, you're going to process the payment in Sage. Okay? So when you process the payment in Sage, we have a feature called ERM, where we have the ability to capture an image of your payment. Notice that this payment here paid for multiple invoices. So we are going to link this one payment to all those invoices. So this way later on, when Mr. Vendor calls up, hey, Gia, I sent you an invoice 2 months ago and I haven't received payment yet, so I can't process your next order. Gia, who do not have access to Sage, she can go into DocLink, search based on the invoice number, and if that invoice been paid, if she has security permission, she will have access to see the payment, and if she has permission, she can email it out, print it out, export it out, and prove to the vendor it's been paid. And by the way, when we capture an image of this payment here, we can even add the word void or non-negotiable on this payment if you're concerned about it being reprinted. Okay. This feature here, this can be used for the capturing of any document that you generate in-house from Sage or any software application. Okay. So the idea is when you create, let's say, purchase order, we can capture an image of your purchase order and store it into DocLink. Okay? And invoice, AP invoice, AR invoice, and your payment as well, or your sales order that you create in Sage. So that's a little bit on the processing and workflow routing of your AP invoice. Now let's take a look at the searching. I already mentioned that you can have access to those documents within Sage. But let's see how it's searched in DocLink. So this is the user interface screen for the searcher. Now notice here, we can accommodate multiple companies. So if your organization have 10 or 20 companies, we don't care. All of your 10 or 20 companies can use our system to store their documents. So when we store documents into the system, we need to tell what type of document is it, okay, and also property value for searching purpose. Now I can go here and say, hey, find for me all documents for all my companies anytime a vendor name alt tab was mentioned. Or I can filter it down. Find for me only the AP invoice for Fabricon company only for an specific invoice number or vendor name. Or I can search by based on find for me all the invoices that I paid on a specific date or date range. We can do wildcard search, we can do relational search, we can do Boolean search, and very soon we can also do full text searching as well. Now, for those of you who are sitting in the AP or accounting side of the house, full text searching is not important because you're going to search based on invoice number or PO number or check number or so on. But when you start expanding the system, you use it in HR department or contracts or legal department, okay? The full text searching is very, very important for them because they want to go in and say, hey, show me all the documents anytime a company name alt tab was mentioned on the documents. Okay, so that is coming like in literally within months. Okay, in this example here, I'm just going to search for an invoice. So here's the system found one invoice based on that invoice number, and here's all the information about the invoice. But let's say that Lisa wanted to see, well, I want to see all the documents associated with this purchase order number. Well, all you have to do, Lisa, is just click on that, fill, and with a simple click, the system's going to bring up all the documents associated with that purchase order number. And now you just highlight it all, and with another simple click, the system is going to bring up all those documents on the same screen for you. So the idea is those of you who create purchase order, you create the purchase order in Sage or in whatever application you're using, we are going to capture an image of that purchase order along with all the data about that purchase order and store it into this file cabinet. So now when you receive your good or services and you're doing your receipting, you're going to want to store your packing slip and receiving documents into the system. And those receiving documents get linked to the purchase order. So now when the AP department receives the invoice gets stored into the system and it's going to get linked to purchase order and the receiving documents. And then AP, all those documents are visible and available to you instantly, so now you can do your manual matching if you want. And by the way, our system also has the ability to do automated matching for you as well. We can talk more about that if you're later on. Okay? And then of course is once you process the payment, we want to capture an image of the payment and store that into the system, and that payment get linked to all those invoices. So you have a complete history from beginning to end. So that's a little bit on the AP invoicing side of the house. Okay? Now, we could go further than that. Some of you have corporate credit card. And I bet you are spending hours, even days, reconsolidating the bank statement. Well, we can help with that. We have a tool where we can create a template of your bank statement, your MX, card statement, or your Visa, whichever bank it's from. All statement now offers the statement in CSV format. So all you have to do is you are going to import that bank statement into the system. Okay, when you import it in, the CSV file, notice here we have charges for Robert, we have charges for Diana and Benjamin. All you have to do now is just click on the button that says Create, and with a simple click, the system will create a separate statement per each cardholder with their itemized charges. So now you have the receipt can get uploaded and linked to each transaction. Workflow now can route the statement around for review and approval. And if you want, we can even go further than that. You can do your GL coding for each of the transactions, and then we can push all this data over to Sage. So AP, you don't have to do that data entry. A task that's taking you hours or days can be now down to literally minutes. Okay? What about your account receivable side of the house? Okay, you've created processing the invoice. But now, let's say your customer wants a copy of the signed delivery ticket or a copy of the contract or purchase order with that invoice. The receivable staff now have to go, get off the chair, go to the file cabinet and look for those documents, scan them in, and then attach it to the invoice. And then if you're going to email it out, you're going to have to open up your email, drag and drop those the documents in, type in the email address, and of course, and then it goes. We can reduce that workload. So all you have to do is create the invoice in Sage. And the system will get a copy of your invoice stored into the DocLink system. At the same time, you can go and look for those signed delivery ticket or the purchase order or the contract. Then we're going to read the email address on your invoice or in Sage or in a database somewhere. Or if for those of you who are using electronic faxing, if we recognize a fax number, we then can automatically email it out or fax it out or send it to a default printer for you. So at the end of the day, you just create the invoice and that's it. And on a time basis, we'll automatically distribute it out. So on that email or that fax or that print, you're going to have the invoice, the signed delivery ticket, and the purchase order. And you didn't even have to get off your chair. The same tools are also often used for the sales order side of the house. When you process your sales order, you create an order acknowledgement. Our system can automatically send out that order acknowledgement to your customer. Or when you create purchase order, okay, our system can automatically send out that generated purchase order to your vendor for you. And if along with that purchase order, you need to attach a copy of the quote or the delivery instruction or the term and conditions, we can do that as well automatically. Okay, so for those of you for the accounting manager, your concern, of course, is visibility and having reporting capability, and improving accuracy. So, an example here, we have construction company. Okay, they store so far over 2 million documents in DocLink. Okay, and the possibility of storing those documents into the system is endless. We don't care how much data you store into the system. Your IT just needs to make sure you have expandable hard drive space and the ability to have those access to those documents, instantly at your fingertip. I mentioned we have a full audit log so it tracks who logged in, what day, what time, what action was performed to which documents. You can control your security down by the keystroke. Who can have access to which documents and what can they do within the system? Can they email the document? Can they delete a document? Can they print a document? Can they view? And so on. For those of you in the accounting side of the house, security may not be a concern because you may just have a handful of people. But once you expand the system to HR or to legal department and other department outside of accounting, that's when security is a concern. And so yes, our security is very tight and very granular. we can help you comply with HIPAA requirements, Sarbanes-Oxley, and other government-regulated policy. Okay? Like I said, with our security, we can control it down for which companies can you have access to, and within that company, which department documents can you have access to, and within that department, what type of document can you have access to. So maybe you have 2 AP staff. AP person 1, you might just decide that they can only have access to all invoices for company A and not company B. Or you may decide that for the department staff, they could only have access to the invoice, but they cannot have access to the payment information. Or for the HR department, you may decide that, hey, I want the department manager to have access to only their staff department documents, HR documents only. Also to be able to track and know exactly where the documents are in the process. So here, example, the supervisor can go and see there are some invoices that, waiting for AP to review. There's an invoice that hasn't been approved yet. There's some invoice that just arrived that haven't been processed yet. There's some HR letter that's out for acceptance. There's an HR letter that's waiting for review by the HR director. It's knowing exactly where the document's at in the process. That will help you to improve customer service and increase efficiency. Okay. What about the financial officer? What are some of your concerns? Of course, is increasing productivity of your staff and reducing risk and also being compliant. I'm sure that you get audits. Okay. Actually, here's a life story. We have a customer that before they what happened is they're a public company and they get audited very regular basis. And one year they were audited and they were asked to produce all these documents, and they could not. They couldn't track all the documents what was requested. So they were fined $100,000 because they would not be able to produce all the documents required. Well, from then on, they had a mission. They wanted to be able to manage and able to have access to their documents at any time. So they implemented a document management system. And of course, through the due diligence, they decided to select Alltech. And from then on, the number of audits been reduced, and the time that their staff spent to search for documents have reduced dramatically. It, way paying more the system more than itself. So our customer, when you receive an audit, you can provide a login to your auditors, and allow them to have access to certain documents within your system, and they can do their own searching. Or let's say, hey, Joe, your company been audited. I need for you to produce for me all those AP documents for all your companies, and those documents have to be within a certain date range. So you submit your search criteria. You click on search. In literally seconds, the system's going to bring up your search result with a listing of all those documents. So this here found 131 documents. You can print a report, or you can download, if you have permission, you can download all these documents into a thumb drive or a CD or DVD if you want. And when you download, you can even include the DocLink search engine with that. The auditor who do not have access to DocLink, they can still, from that thumb drive, can go in and ask the system, find for me the AP check anytime they pay a company called Sinclair. We have customers using this tool in their legal department. When they go to court, they go into DocLink, search for all the documents, download it to a thumb drive, so the attorney at court is doing DocLink search while their opponent is dealing with papers. Okay? And of course, we also can help with expense report. Okay? I myself use this religiously. Many of you sitting out there are still using the good old Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so what we can do is we can create a template of your expense report. When I travel, I have my mobile app. On my mobile app, I can search for my customer documents. If I need to approve anything, I can do so through my mobile app. But when it comes to expense report, I have the ability to capture my receipt. Okay, so I just click on capture. Now, I have customers using this mobile app to take site photo. For example, we have inspectors that goes out in the field and take pictures of inspection site. We have customer, when they're in the field of repair. So in the field, they can access their work orders. They can do the repairs. They can take pictures of the repair and upload it to the system. For me, I am just going to click on receipt because I want to take pictures of the receipt while I'm traveling. That way I don't have to worry about losing my receipt anymore. So then I just tell the system what the receipt is about, what's the dollar amount, and who it's for. And then it gets uploaded into the system. At the end of the month or when I'm ready, I go back into the office. I just log into the system. The system will autofill and create, my expense report with the expense report number, the day, and of course my receipts are attached. And now with a simple click, the system is going to create my expense report with all my charges and my receipt attached. Workflow now can route it to my manager for approval. And if you want, the accounting or whoever can do the GL coding, and then we can pass all this data, all these charges over to Sage. So AP, you don't have to do that same data entry. So that's a little bit on expense report. We also have customers using our system for HR department. Why? Because you want to be able to have a solution where you can secure your information, your vital documents, to streamline your onboarding process, to track if you have employees that have to be, to have certification, tracking if, when they're retiring, if they're active or inactive, and so on. So yes, we can help you comply with your onboarding process. Because when you're onboarding new staff, there's a lot of action that has to take upon. Someone has to do, have a computer, create an email address, and key card and so on. So making sure that all those actions are done. And of course, all those documents associated with the employee. And yes, we can also create forms, employee forms as well. Okay. Also, big news, contract management. We can help you with that as well. Okay. With the system, we have document collaborations, check-in, check-out capability. So let's say you have a draft contract. It's in Word format. You can store that draft contract into the system. Workflow now will notify the appropriate staff to look at that contract and make the necessary edits. So now they just log in. They then going to check that contract out. When they check that contract out, no one else can work on it. It's locked. They can look at it. They just can't work on that same contract. Once they're done, they're going to check that contract back in. Once they check it back in, the system will create version number 2, the day and time, who worked on it. So we keep a history of all the version of the document. Okay. And now when you're ready to email out that contract, the system can convert that contract into TIFF or PDF format. And of course, you want to apply the retention date to that contract or when the contract to expire so that you can renew that contract. Be proactive and track that contract and renew them. So that's a little bit on version control and, the ability to use the system for contract management. And then finally, like I said, we're all traveling, we're all over the world. The system have also a web capability where through the web, you can search for documents. You can also have workflow approval. And very soon, you're going to be able to do GL coding of documents on the web as well. We're ready to cover about the mobile app. Okay, it's able to search document, workflow approval, and capture documents on the web. Able to access your work orders when you're out in the field working. And then once you're done, you just tell the system that it's approved or done, and then now workflow can notify AR to invoice that order. So at the end of the day, just know that DocLink is an enterprise document content management system. You can start in AP or AR, but then you can expand it to other business units. That's the big return on the investment for you right there. So we can help your entire company to go paperless if you wish. So why DocLink? We have been in business for over 31 years. Our solution has been used by over 4,000 clients. So our system is a solid, proven, state-of-the-art solution that has been used by thousands of clients. Because we've been doing this for over 30 years, our staff, average staff, experience is 10 years. So we live and breathe of implementation of our system, and we do not outsource any of our services. So rapid implementation. Also, like I said, customer service support, you will have RKL to support you. You will also have Alltech to support you. You can call us directly for support. And being that we have clients worldwide, we have offices in the UK and Australia, nationwide. We are one of the very few that offers 24/7 support, if that's important for you. So I would like to conclude, so that's the conclusion of my presentation. We are now open for any questions that you might have for us. Well, I know one of the questions I get asked very often is, so where do you install DocLink? Do we own the software and so on? So DocLink is available in different flavors. The most popular is on-premise. In other words, it's a one-time purchase of the software, and you own it for life. And we will install the software on your server and your environment. However, there are some organizations that are small, or they may not have IT staff, or they don't want to deal with hardware upgrade. So they use cloud-hosted provider. So yes, DocLink can be used in that manner as well. So you still purchase the software, but instead of installing it on your server in your office, we will install the software on your hosted cloud provider server. Early next year, we will also have the SaaS option available as well, where it's a monthly subscription. You do not own the software, and so the data is going to reside on Alltech Azure server. So like I said, it's a monthly subscription cost. Okay, so those are the different options that you have.
Laura, Shane had a question. How much is the one-time fee?
It depends. Very good question. It depends. As you can see, all those options that I just introduced to you. Some people will say, hey, I just want a standalone system because we're running out of file cabinets. I just want a system to store and search, and that's it. That's a standalone system. But then others will say, hey, I need help with for my AP. Well, I want it integrated with Sage. I want to have workflow routing because I need to track when it's, where my invoice is at. And I want to reduce manual data entry, so we want to pass data back and forth between the Sage or other in-house application. And then others, start with a full enterprise solution because they want to use the system in HR and for contract management and expense report. So, I've sold systems that's $12,000. I've sold systems that's $250,000. It's fully expandable. You can start small and you can expand from there, or you can go full-on enterprise-wide. If you are looking for like a $5,000 solution, we are not it, okay? Because as you can see, the power of the system is that it's not just a file cabinet. We're going to reduce data entry. We're going to be able to allow you to access your data from anywhere around the world to able to increase efficiency and help you comply with, secure your information and backup disaster preparedness. It's not just scanning and storing your document on a network share folder. It is in a contained database.
Laura, Brian had a question. Assuming this could store payroll, tax returns, financial statements, etc. with appropriate access. What about shared Excel files?
Oh, absolutely. Our system is a content management system, so it stores content. Content can be in any file format, so Excel. I have customers storing AutoCAD drawings in AutoCAD format. I have hospitals storing x-rays of patients. I have sheriff departments storing mugshot and videos of crime scene in the system. I have HR departments storing digital picture of the employee for security purpose. So files in any format.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time?
I see a question here from, let's see, can customer PO be linked to Sage sales order module? Absolutely. DocLink is integrated in over a dozen screens within Sage. Okay. So we will be happy to share the integration document with you so you can see all the integration points. And yes, the sales order can be linked to your purchase order as an example. So you can start where you create a quote in Sage. A copy of the quote can store in DocLink. So now when Mr. Customer sends you a purchase order, you store that purchase order into DocLink, that purchase order gets linked to the quote. Now you go to Sage, you create that sales order. A copy of the sales order gets stored to DocLink and it gets linked to your customer purchase order and the original quote. So now when you create delivery tickets and packing slip, and then finally, of course, is the AR invoice, all those documents all can be linked together. And I see another question coming in. It said, what about retention schedule? Yes. Using DocLink as a record management, where you can apply retention schedules for each types of documents. You may have 7-year retention period for your contract, but maybe 5 years only for your AP invoices. Different retention period can be applied to different document types. And then for the no-cost option, you can go in and search. Show me all the documents that met in retention period of next month or last year. Or we can actually have a way where we can send out an alert to notify you. Hey, Mike, here's a list of contracts that's up for retention, like next month. Or here's the list of contracts that's going to expire 3 months from now. And then you can be proactive and go in and, renew those contracts. And yes, some of you we do support all of Sage ERP. So Sage 100, 300, 500, X3, absolutely. Or some of you may hear, familiar with ACPAC, yes, absolutely.
But please contact your RKL account manager, Gia Lane, on the East Coast or Mike Scher on the West Coast should you have any further questions about Alltech's document management solution. Thank you, Laura, and thank you everyone for attending today.